Welcome, welcome everyone to our afternoon session. You know, a lot of the discussions that we've had over since this morning has been centered around strategy, has been centered around execution. Our panel is going to dive into a deeper aspect of that. And if you think in terms of marrying the two of leadership and strategy, and the key to that is execution. And a big part of that is about leadership. What type of leadership do we need in this age of disruption? Our global business landscape is continually being reshaped by unprecedented disruptions, technological advances, global health crisis, disruption. Each factor fundamentally altered the way we perceive and approach leadership and strategy. And this is why it's important. Strategy is cool, but we need people to make sure that works. Understanding the diverse needs of a workforce, the DNA of a workforce is different. Customers are different. People are demanding more. But meanwhile, innovation, inclusive cultures, and all of these visions align to the ever-evolving global dynamics. So our topic is important. How do you marry those two? And whether you're a CEO, mid-level, starting out, how do you connect the two in your leadership, which could be from your team, or it could be from the C-suite? So we have scoured the globe for an exciting panel of experts, and we're going to talk through this exciting topic on leadership in the age of disruption. So we'll start it off by talking about the anchor on the first question, is leadership in times of uncertainty. And our first question is, what essential qualities and skills do leaders need to thrive during uncertain, and disruptive times, which is today? So we'll kind of go from here. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Ron. Assalamu alaikum. I haven't been here in person, but some of the conversations, we've been able to catch them online. They've been absolutely insightful, and this is a forum people look forward to. So glad to be, part of a panel which is so astute, so insightful. To me, when it comes to being a leader in uncertain times, I think it's really changed the way leadership performs and the way we imagine leaders. I'd like to elaborate by saying that once upon a time, we used to look at a leader to be giving you that holistic vision that nobody else can look at. And it was primarily his or her job to translate what is so unfathomable, invisible, and actually break it down for people and empower and enable them. I think when it comes to uncertain times like today, especially when our businesses are being defined by this core word, disruption. Never before did we see it as a positive word before 2020s. We now see it as a welcome change. We'd like to know that our operations, our strategy, they can be implemented, and things which are merely thoughts and visions can become a reality much faster. So for a leader today, when they are operating in agile, disruptive times, it's really important that they're not know-it-alls, and I think what is primarily required of them is to be learn-it-alls. They have to go in with that open mind that I'm not the best in business. I mean, I've been in the television business for the last 15 years, and people far younger than me are way ahead in their digital game. So right now, if I go into creating something, some content online, I have to go with an open mind. I can't be sitting on my high pedestal saying, oh, I've done camera and I've known television forever. So I feel learn it all is the way to go forward.
I love that phrase, learn it all. I have to use that. So switching the mindset and learn from your people as opposed to going in the room and trying to be the only thought leader inside the room. Your thoughts?
Thank you, Ron. I think the very nature of disruptive environment means that leaders need to be very prepared to react to the unknown, and never has been this true in the disruptive times. I was, preparing for this session, and I came across research by Deloitte, which says about 23% of the employees believe their organization's leaders currently have have the capabilities necessary to manage in a disrupted environment. So, here we have huge opportunity. And I think the quality that we need in this time of disruptive, and I think, we feel that this is disruptive environment. I think if you go 10 years before or 20 years before, my problem, like my father would have different, disruptive challenges. So we all believe that we are sitting in a disruptive environment, but I think every environment is disruptive. So I think the leaders should have the appetite to take the risk in any moment of in time you are. So if you are a change leader and if you're not that don't have that appetite, then I think you don't become a leader. I think failing fast and learning quickly is today's mantra of leadership, I think. Otherwise, with the pace, the way things are going, it's really difficult to cope up. A second, I think, is leading and strategizing for disruptions needs strategic discipline. And I would quote here Ram Charan, the leading guru of the strategy. He said, leading through the inflation, and we all know today's times, how inflationary environment it is. So you cannot survive unless you are on top of on things in these difficult times. Last but not least, I think we have to encourage, as Sidra just mentioned, you need to open up to listen to the thing. And I think in organizations, we really need to have that, reduction of the power between and we need to have the listening mechanism. Otherwise, as Sidra said, you know it all, then you can't be, survive as a leader in this disruptive environment. So here are my two thoughts.
Listening, how well are you listening? The other key component you mentioned is this is not your father's or your parents' workforce. The dynamics of the workforce is shifting, and it's a younger audience. The disruption for turnover is in that data set of the 20 to 30. So how are we going to lead going forward? So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for the question. And on a lighter note, you said this isn't your father's workforce. I happen to head a family business. And I just want to share my own perspective on leadership. I think anybody who's a leader, firstly and foremostly, realizes that uncertainty prevails at all times. So really, if I were to think about the defining characteristics of a leader, particularly in times of disruption and uncertainty, I would say it is the ability to effectively manage all stakeholders. And in our case, the key stakeholders are our employees and our customers. And I just want to delve into both these segments a little bit further. As an established company operating in the logistics sector for the last 4 decades, we have seen new competition, new entrants coming into the market. And, very often we see, competitive rates being offered at lower prices, etc. And I think the key message in times of disruption and uncertainty to our customers is really to reassure them that we are their partners for the long run, because we have been with them through all their stages of growth. And so I think it's very important to convey that sense of confidence that we are not a fly-by-night operator, but we are a sustainable business that has been deeply invested in this market. Secondly, in terms of our employees, again, as an established business, which is a very responsible company, a key stakeholder, are our employees, and particularly in times of crisis and uncertainty, such as the times of COVID and, the sort of inflationary pressures that we saw in the last sort of year or so, the employees tend to get, very shaken. They don't know about the sustainability of certain businesses. A lot of competitors do, in fact, end up having to reduce their operations or fire large numbers of people. And so I think to, again, see how you operate in such times of crises really speaks a lot to your leadership. And I'm proud to say that during COVID, TCS did not fire a single employee. We stood by them. We made sure that people felt that reassurance. And even, thank you. And even lately, when we talk about minimum wage expectations, particularly in times of rising fuel prices, etc., we are 100% minimum wage compliant for all our permanent employees. And so I think, just to summarize, it is about how the leader can give confidence to the key stakeholders, recognizing the challenges, but also to exude that confidence about the path ahead.
Thank you for that. I thought of when you talked about stakeholders, C-suite, we tend to think and focus on customers, and what you're saying, and this is the new dynamic, is customers and employees. Those are the new stakeholders, and we have to listen to both before we move forward or put policies together. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you for your question. So the qualities that leaders should have in disrupting times. So there's this very interesting book by Jim Collins, Great by Choice, that I've recently read. And the book specifically covers the fact that they've done a research past 3 decades, American companies who have went through different disruptive eras. They looked into 20,400 companies, and they, after 9 years of research, they came down to 7 companies. And in those 7 companies were the companies whereby they performed 10 times better than their peer and competitive companies in the same industries. So organizations like Microsoft, Progressive Insurance, Southwest Railline, etc. And it covers different features about how organizations should manage whenever there are disruptive events. So from a leadership quality perspective, they pen down 3 important qualities that the leader should have. So one of the quality is that it's very important for a leader to have a productive paranoia. So productive paranoia is not about the leader to get scared, but it is about working out all the possibilities that could go wrong with the business in the times when there are uncertainties. To the point, Bill Gates did hung a picture of Henry Ford in his working area just for him to make him realize that even greater successes could be passed by, as General Motors did pass by Ford's success. So having a productive paranoia, working out the possibilities that could go wrong with the business and taking actions to reverse is very, very important. The second important quality that a leader should possess, it is about empirical creativity. And we do see that whenever there is a disruption, there are uncertainties, we do tend to follow what others are doing, right? So the recipe for one problem or for one industry that is followed by another could not be the same. So putting down the facts and figures, doing your analysis, and of course with the team, and coming out with a customized solution, it is very, very important for a leader to, as a quality to possess, to manage a successful organization. And the last one has been about phonetic discipline. So it is very, very important for a leader to be consistent with the values, for the leader to be consistent with the methods that they apply within the organization. So the 3 qualities that did inspire me, and I thought that I should share with you as an answer to your question.
No, that's cool. Evidence-based, the numbers show that. The numbers prove that if we operate in a certain principle or foundation, we could achieve success. So thank you so much for that. And by the way, Jim Collins is a great author.
Yeah, he is.
Big fan.
Yeah. So, leadership in these times not only survive, but thrive. So that's a leadership quality and something a leader needs to do. Learning, as we heard, is a key part of leadership, and attending a conference like this is one of those things. So I want to congratulate Asfar and the team, of the Nutshell team, to sort of arrange this galaxy of stars here on the stage and off. One other thing which I think a leader needs to have is communication. I think communication is very important to be able to communicate to the outside stakeholders as well as the inside stakeholders, right? One other thing is also decisiveness. So one has to, in times like these, prioritize speed over perfection. A leader needs to be comfortable that they don't know everything, right? Decision making can come anywhere on 30 to 70% of the information available. And 90% of the decisions are reversible. So it's not like a one-way street. If you make wrong decisions, you can always reverse them because 90% of the decisions are reversible. Another thing is, the leader should learn to differentiate between complicated and complex problems, right? So a complicated problem can be broken down into many, many small problems and can be solved. But complex problems have many, many variables, some of them known, some of them unknown, and some of the unknown variables just might result in a very different or a very huge impact on the bottom line or on the company or whichever organization that you're leading. Other than that, I think if I were to sum up, leadership is like a compass and strategy is like a map, right? So when you have a good blend of both of these two, you're bound to succeed in times like these.
Okay, cool. I wanted to touch on what you talked about, a learning mindset, and this is what I kind of picked up from that, is that one of the questions I will always ask, like, what are you reading? What are you reading besides work? And what books are you reading? What articles are you reading? How do you grow mentally, in this new space? Because Microsoft did an interesting study post-COVID, and they started this research as soon as they locked down. They kept researching people, surveying people, and two key points came out with that. For an organization as well as leadership, we need to listen more, and we need to communicate better. And I'll give you an example of that. I was on a flight coming from Dubai last night, and it was like an hour and a half late. Emirates never has that happen, and Emirates probably is the most perfect airline on the planet. And we didn't leave, and we were waiting. There was no air conditioning, and the pilot came on and says, this is an announcement. We have a problem. The engines won't start. We're trying to get the engine started. And everybody freaked out. And I'm thinking, bad communication. We have a technical issue, and we're working on it, and we'll be leaving shortly. So when we think about messaging inside of an organization, what message are we sending? You talked about your organization doing this, the structures that you've gone through, a challenge you've gone through, no layoffs, and you were able to do it in a humane way. All of that comes back to communication. So thank you for anchoring that point. So thank you. We always save the best for last, so let's go ahead and rock it.
You put me on a spot. Difficult after a lot of distinguished speakers. So first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and I think thank you, Asfar, for arranging this Future Summit. So I would say that in any time, doesn't matter, like it's a disruptive time, or leaders are those who make others better, right? So that's the philosophy that you always need to think about. That doesn't matter whether it's a disruptive time or real time or whatever. And also, in any time, nowadays especially, because my field is technology, so I'll just correlate a little bit, it's innovation, right? Disruption is happening all around. And if you are not thinking on emerging technologies, somebody will come and disrupt you. Yes. Because if you get bigger, then you have more bureaucracy to handle. Somebody will come nimble with the technology, with the idea, and will disrupt you and put you on the spot. So for leaders in today's world, modern world, you have to read about how is technology changing the world. I think I will not go into the lecture of AI and all of this, but data is a strategic asset, right? Which converts your hindsight to foresight, right? So every organization has tons of data. It's all about, are you using that effectively to make your decisions as a leaders? And, or you're just relying on just traditional descriptive reporting. Okay, what happened in my business yesterday? Show me the results, show me the numbers, show me the accounts. You have to nowadays think about predictability, how you predict the future, how you have a prescription about it. And technology is going to change the leadership style, and whichever position, it doesn't matter that you are CEO or CFO or COO, it doesn't matter. You have to be dreamer, and you have to be thinking always that how can I change and bring productivity through technology, because nowadays our problem in our country especially is the productivity challenge, right? Few businesses rely on subsidies and so forth, but if you really want to compete internationally in export environment, then productivity can only be increased if you use the right technology, because now you can automate the mundane tasks, routine tasks. You just focus on exceptions and innovation, right? And I think I would like to say in today's world, whether it's disruptive, you heard about the COVID or whatever, trust, gaining and regaining trust of your colleagues, your stakeholder is the key thing, right? And how you can gain and regain the trust. There are 3 variables to it. Number 1, you have to have a logic. If you can't communicate logically your idea or your problem statement, then doesn't matter what kind of a leader you are, nobody will listen to you, just people will just here and there, right? The next is empathy, right? If leaders don't have empathy, as Rizwan just said, I know it all, and no humility and just things like that, then what is in for me, right? That's very important. So, and the third is authenticity. If you are true, authentic yourself, then you can gain and regain the trust. So it's a triangle. So you have to be logical, you have to have empathy, and you have to be yourself, authentic, right? And lastly, I would say, if it's a deep purpose, I think in leadership, if you can't inculcate in your organization the culture and the value, why you exist. It's mission, vision, it's okay, but if you don't know why, what is my purpose? If every employee in your company doesn't know his role, why am I being here? Why I'm doing this job? And why my company exists? It's not about the CSR or social responsibility, it's commercial, social, every angle, goals, ambition. So why part is the most important element. That's what I call deep purpose in your organization. So I think if you have these things, then I think as a leader, you can inspire and aspire anyone in your organization.
So we start with why. You mentioned competencies, you mentioned empathy and authenticity. Those competencies rose from the bottom to the top post-COVID.
Yes. It's
because the leadership dynamic changed.
Yeah.
One of my prior roles was a CEO for Great Place to Work in Dubai. And I remember the first call I made with a leader, CEO, big shot. And all he talked about was, I know I'm a great leader. I know. He said that 3 times, and I'm thinking, you're not. Because if you have to convince yourself, you're not that. So, and this is where the empathy piece and authenticity comes up. Well, his authenticity didn't quite ring true to that, but that's what we have today. So thank you so much for that. So let's talk about navigating disruption. How do you navigate disruption? From your perspective, you don't know all the answers. You're trying to figure it out. Your employees are looking for you to try and guide it. Start with the why statement. Give us some tips on navigating disruption.
Okay, I particularly liked your question, Ron, when you said, where are we drawing from our inspiration? What books are we reading? So I strongly recommend this one book to everyone, which is about degrowth. I mean, sounds like the opposite of where we seem to be. But I just noticed, and I don't know how many of you have picked this up. Usually we read a graph from left towards, from this side to that side. I don't know. I'm a little confused that way. So from right to left. So if I look at this, the M in the summit, it's talking about high growth, and then it sort of goes down. So my degrowth formula was working with the designer here as well. What I'm trying to get at is there's a rule of the universe and the nature, and no other species but the human race breaks it every single day. The rule is you take what you need. Any species, any animal would only go ahead and get what it requires. Birds don't have refrigerators, they don't have storage spaces in their little nests, and at the same time, even a tree, it only takes the kind of nutrients it requires from the soil. Yeah. The only kind that breaks that rule is human beings. We want more, and there's no end to our greed. The book that I'm talking about is called Less is More by Jason Heckel. It's about the regrowth model, because we're 7 billion of us right now, and if we continue to grow, the world GDP, the global GDP will need to be at least growing by 3 to 5% annually in order to support all of us. That's not sustainable. That's only comparable to cancer. So if we don't want to be the cancerous growth, we have to look at the big picture, which is exactly what this summit is asking us to do. We have to be agile, but often as business leaders, what are we confusing? We confuse the operational agility with the strategic agility. Operational agility would be all about having your existing products, making them, the service to be faster, making the product to be cheaper, making your resource use to be more efficient. Whereas strategic agility calls upon how I can explore new markets with new products for new customers. And that's where exactly we were getting confused. We're trying to embrace technology, but not really moving forward towards strategic agility. And that's my pain point. And the daring conclusion this book is actually drawing you towards is anything that's going to cut down the income and the earnings of the richest of the world has to have an ecological benefit for the planet. Wow. So just some thoughts that I want to leave people with.
Well, first of all, I made a note to that lesson more, and as soon as I finish, I'm going to Amazon. I'm ordering that book because I love that concept.
I get no commission, but I
That's
hope
okay.
That
That's
like
okay.
it.
We're cool. We're sharing amongst everybody, right? Okay. Give us your thoughts on that.
I think in disruptive environment, the smaller companies have that edge when they really truly disrupt the environment. I'll give you our example. We're in the pharmaceutical industry. We started in 2000 from a zero base, and we had the why and the vision, the dream of a healthier society. Now, a healthier society is, physically, because you sell drugs. But then we said, no, I mean, physically, of course, we sell drugs and people will get healthy. But how do we help the community or the society, larger society, to have that social well-being or the capacity to develop their, the future or, develop their human knowledge and the capacity. So selling medicine is one thing. This will come along. People will be healthy. But then why was very strong. It's the dream of a healthier society with a very large canvas. We started building upon it. Initially, because small resources, we had a real tough time, going to the medical professional, that we will not, give you anything for your personal capacity. We will not oblige you in any personal capacity. But anything you want to do with your patients, or anything you want to do with the society, or anything you want to do with your knowledge or the research, we are there. So the medical community looked at us, so this is not, what's in for me? But we had a very clear vision. Our people were very clear about it, that our larger canvas is the dream of a healthier society, because obliging personally will not create that healthier minds. So we had a tough time, but we were, as as a family business, we had a very, very strong legacy that whatever we will do in an ethical way that will promote the human capacity and will help the society in the larger context. So initially it was difficult, but now after 20, almost 2 decades passed, so people now appreciate and realize that this company had a real strong philosophy with the why, dream of a healthy society. And now when we go to the medical profession or to the society, they know that this company stands for what. So this was something truly a disruptive, which even the industry didn't understand at that time initially. We got a lot of comment that this is not the way to market the product, this is not the way to launch a company, this is not the way to actually run a company. But then, as I said, we had a very strong legacy of marketing our products very ethically. So here we are. But now, with so much resources, with a huge infrastructure, with such a large team, you always have a bureaucracy in how do you continuously disrupt. So these are the today's challenges that so now what we are doing is, we are making small focus teams, which can actually go and, kind of disrupt further going forward. So e-commerce is something very new for the pharmaceutical selling, especially when you're selling a drug to the patient directly. So we are testing, small ways, and this is how I think any company has to disrupt the environment. They need few resources, small teams, and then they can focus and disrupt the environment. This is what my 2 cents are.
Okay. That's an interesting learning point because when you're starting out, you're disrupting, and then you can become fat, and because now you've made it and you forget those learnings. And that was key for you to move forward, to keep coming back to that founding structure.
Yeah, and that's what I keep telling my team. What we did 20 years ago is not valid for today.
Yeah.
So we need to think differently
Yeah.
and how we differently give to our market, to our profession.
Yeah.
So we really need to, have a very, very different points and different perspectives. So we need to bring in young team, and as we say, I don't know all. We have to listen and to see how we can do better. So for that, we need to have focused teams. We need to do small bits, and then can grow a larger into that context.
Definition of agility. Remember that. Definition of agility was what you just gave master class on that. So thank you so much for that. Go ahead.
Thank you. So in terms of disruption, we've obviously the way I think about it is it's when a new entrant or a competitor basically offers a better value proposition to your customer and perhaps is more responsive to where the market is heading than you have been, either owing to legacy issues or, like we mentioned, you are initially the disruptor and then you become too bloated and you lack that agility. So, there's been a lot of talk of disruption in the logistics sector, and if I may just share, from what is our perspective as the market leader on that disruption, I think it also comes down to what one of the speakers said about deep purpose, because ultimately you have to really think about the overall purpose of your organization, and are you willing to contest every battle, and do you want to throw resources into every space? So one really has to pick and choose which verticals you want to compete in at that level. The way that TCS operates, we have a pretty, very broad canvas, and I just want to segment it a little bit and explain to our audience here that, for example, on the B2B market, which is, where we address the entire cross-section of industry from pharmaceuticals to banking and education, fashion, etc., where we see the market really going is the desire for integrated third-party logistics solutions where we really manage the effective sort of end-to-end logistics, starting from inventory management through to multimodal transportation, very often that has a cross-border element, all the way down to sort of warehousing and fulfillment and distribution. There in that segment, we have seen some disruption, particularly as far as trucking is concerned, particularly because trucking happens to be a very inefficient and disorganized sector in Pakistan. But the traditional business model is still very much alive because it's not really sustainable to hyper-focus on one small segment without the infrastructure that supports it. And so I would say that in our traditional B2B segment, we haven't seen the sort of disruption that is at least still to date. However, in the B2C segment, which is mostly to do with our end customer touch point, to do with, for example, e-commerce deliveries where we deliver to households and individuals, that is where we're seeing two very distinct trends in terms of where the market is going and how customer expectations are changing. One of them is the desire for greater visibility. So customers are demanding transparency and tracking abilities, etc. And the second is greater convenience, where customers are demanding flexible delivery schedules and pickups from homes, etc. Now, as an established player, which follows a sustainable business model, which is not dependent on investor funding, our challenge really is that we are in a market where there's extreme downward pressure on prices, and yet there is a need to invest in the technologies that will enable us to to follow where the market is going. So I think, this is sort of, I wanted to lay out, our perspective on the logistics landscape, but in summary, I think what I would say is that there is definitely a desire to create those efficiencies internally, and to really be hyper-focused on your own, try to at least discover what your own blind spots are so that you can follow the market and preempt those changes before your competitors do. And there, I think the need for smaller teams and this agile thinking, innovative thinking is very critical.
Yeah, I'm sure you're noticing a theme, of facing an industry and how do you disrupt and listening more and trying to create a solution to that. That's kind of a common theme that we're going through. So give us your thought. Thank you so much for enlightening us with that.
Yeah, Ron, thank you so much for the question. There's this very famous business quote on disruption that there would be no new normal again.
Yeah.
So there would be a disruption followed by another disruption, followed by another forever. And if we reflect back the last 15 to 20 years in our lives also, our lives have changed big time, right? From 9/11 to pandemic, through the change in technology that we have seen. We have also seen that the businesses and the brands that were not able to design or equip themselves or failed to anticipate the disruption coming in, they vanished, right? And when I was growing up, I grew up under the era of Motorola being the only mobile phone that everyone else would use, and then Nokia, then iPhone. So and you look around even socially as well. Today we're sitting when the generation Alpha with people who have been born 2010 onwards and Generation Z. So as the generation percentage in the population keeps on changing as well, we also see a change in the social values in our societies as well. So disruption is all around us. It is not just about a breakthrough IT innovation, but it impacts us in many ways. In fact, some of the government regulatory changes as well. So now from a corporate perspective, as our organization, what is our policy as being the biggest snacking player globally? So we said that there are few facets of disruption that you could control, and there are few that you could not. So to control means that you could anticipate. So a social change, so just to give you an example, so we as an organization, we have our Vision 2030, and the Vision 2030 of the organization has been designed with the change in trends that we have seen in many markets. So example being well-being, snacking is growing rapidly across the world, and some of the developed economies, it is really, really high. So as the organization now, we have decided to move away from some of the categories like gums, etc., and use that money to acquire businesses that involves baked snacks and well-being snacks. And as an organization, we have acquired quite a lot of organizations globally. So anticipating that the changing trends of consumers, which today could be in single digit, with the passage of time when they become big, what impact it would have on the organization, and how the organization can today redesign itself to prepare for the future tomorrow. Similarly, if I talk about from a Pakistan perspective as well, government regulations, change in government regulations can also have a big impact or disrupt your businesses as well. So being in Pakistan as an emerging market, I think one of the very important way to anticipate is to see that what different developed economies are doing, or the policy changes that they are bringing in, because generally the cycle is that it is implemented there first, and then emerging markets picks it up. So preparing your organization in advance on some of the disruptions that could happen is and I've spoken about another important one is on sustainability. So sustainability in developed economies is huge, right? You will be surprised to know that some of the researches that have been conducted, consumers have showed the intent that they would like to switch their brands for the brands, and the percentage is about 57%, for the brands who have a commitment to the planet or doing something for the sustainability. The employees, colleagues, 70% in USA, the people say that they would like to work for the organizations who are doing something for the planet, etc. Right? So looking into those trends, anticipating those trends, and preparing your organization is very, very important, how organization can navigate through disruption. So there's some of the disruptions that you cannot anticipate, right? So COVID, no one anticipated. 9/11, no one anticipated. So in those kind of disruptions, it's very important for the organization to have the right culture injected, right? So the right culture is to promote the culture of agility over perfection, like you rightly spoke about it. Empowering. So in our organization right now, there's a big term, the 3 terms, EFC, empowerment, focus, and connection. And there's a full-fledged campaigning going on. So I'm being evaluated by my team members, whether do I empower them or I don't. So empowerment is what? Empowerment is about amplifying the intelligence of your organization. So in a room versus one person taking the decision and thinking and making those calls versus empowering the other 5 team members also to utilize their intelligence, etc. Some of the cultural shifts that organizations need to bring so that whenever there's something that has hit them which was not anticipated, the organization is ready, not just the leader, but the entire organization is ready to turn it around.
Okay, cool. Reflections. How are we reflecting on where we are as an organization? How are we reflecting and connecting to you talking about the environment? I watched this ad for DHL, and it comes on and it shows a woman coming to work, diversity, getting in a truck, pulling the charging station out, and she's driving through a park, different demographics in the park. It's not about you ship 2 packages, you get 1 for free. It's about the purpose and aligning everything. So thank you so much for bringing that forward. Thank you.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do is define what disruption is, at least from my perspective. So disruption is basically a rapid change, right? And disruption can also be that someone or some company has a significantly better solution to the problem that you're trying to solve. So it's very important that you stay in love with the problem rather than the solution. 2 major disruptions one disruption has happened and one is happening as we see. The first one I'd like to talk about is the knowledge disruption, right? What is knowledge disruption? So it's like knowledge used to be a privilege of the few, then it went to many, and now it's with everyone. So it was like an Encyclopedia Britannica 40 years ago, then it was that same encyclopedia on a CD, and now it's on the smartphone. So knowledge is a level playing field for everybody, right? But the most important thing and the ability to use that knowledge is basically intelligence. And now we see that with AI coming in, that intelligence is also going through that process which knowledge went through in the last so many years. And that's, I think, one of the biggest elements of disruption one can currently think of, and we really need to understand how it's going to impact our businesses or whatever we do, for that matter. We have many other examples, like what happened to Kodak film. It was eaten up by Fuji or whatever those guys were in digital cameras. And then you see that the digital camera is eaten up by the smartphone, right? Very quickly. So the hunter becomes the hunted. Yeah. And there's collateral damage. So when the smartphones come out, there's no need for a flashlight, there's no need for any alarm clocks for that matter. So many things, right? Yeah. So you have to understand whether, or at least anticipate whether you're going to be collateral damage or you're going to be the hunted, or what, where would your or the hunter for that matter, right? Yeah. So how you can deal with disruption is how quickly and how well you are able to adopt the new technologies that are in play, for example, AI, right? And how quickly and how well you're able to redefine your traditional business model, whichever model that you're following. But before I end, I'd like to sort of quote Bill Gates over here. So he says that, we generally tend to overestimate the change which is taking place in the next 2 years, but significantly underestimate the change that's going to happen in the next 10 years. That's what I think of the whole thing.
Thank you for that. I thought of a photo I saw, all of the discussions about AI and the implications, and someone posted a photo of college professors who were protesting the use of calculators. Take it back. Some of you may not know what a calculator is, but at one time we had a device that we would use. They were protesting the use of calculators in the classroom. And see where we are today. So it's going to happen whether you address it and embrace it or not. So thank you so much for bringing that historical perspective to the stage. Thank you.
Great.
So again, we're saving the best for last. You're the home run hitter.
Oh my God.
For closing this out.
So I'm just picking up from what Rizwan just ended, right? Disruption, he defined the disruption. And I think we just try to complicate a lot. I think disruption is not like a spray paint approach. There is a world of opportunity, but power is in focus, right? So there are problems and opportunities in every business. It's not like IT or it's non-IT. You just need to go deep because focus liberates you to go deep, and then you solve the specific problem through disruption, through innovation, through agility, as a lot of speakers just talk about it. But idea is there are problems and opportunities both. How you are just simplifying. I think what Rizwan just said, we try to complicate things, right? We just think very complex, right? Problem solution is very simple. When you are automating something, and what now you just to give an example, I'll just pick up on it. Just said about the smartphone. Now the human device has been launched. So yeah, cell phone is being disrupted. Like now there is a translation, right? I just click the button on this AI pin and somebody's talking in a different language. It will translate everything, right? And if I'm telling, it will translate into other language. I can make a phone call, I can do virtual reality, and I can do things on my palm. So everything is, now what is human psyche, right? Okay, as he said that when smartphone came in, everybody thought that it solves a lot of problem and it makes it obsolete. Now people are thinking about this device,
Yes.
what it's going to do.
Yes.
Now it's a new level of excitement.
Yes.
I think, so it's a disruption everywhere. And again, I think he just said that AI, right? I think people have a myth that AI will replace the jobs, AI will do this and that, and we will be jobless and homeless. It's not like that, right? It will create more jobs, right? Every time disruption happens,
Yes.
it takes few years.
Yes.
It takes always few years. It's not
Yeah.
like overnight change
Yeah.
that, okay, this is going to happen and you are done with it, right? What AI is going to do, AI can predict. There is a fine line between AI can predict, but the judgment lies to a human. So you need to understand that you can have a scenario analysis. AI can predict these scenarios for you, but as a human, you will always have a need for a judgment, decision making.
Yes.
So that is not going to change the world. I think like the people think like this, right? Now, again, we were all about like 10 years ago, all descriptive reporting. Okay, what happened yesterday, tell me. Then machine learning came in. Okay, tell me how I'm going to predict based on the past data, what I have, and how I'm going to disrupt my business model and automate the process. Now, then AI comes in, then I want to prescribe the specific problem and have a solution for it. Now you're talking about Gen AI. You're talking about natural language processing.
Yeah.
Now, what is happening, right? I'll just highlight two things this, right? So now every business owner or CEO telling us, because we provide solutions, okay, I want to interact with computer. I don't need my IT people to give me a report. I want to write. I want all the employees who have degree from IBA, just in a plain English, and I want to get a model. I want to get a data out of it. So it's a natural language processing, interacting, like all of you have heard ChatGPT now. So it's a very simple. Now they made it very simple. Like it looks simple, but it required a lot of innovation, OpenAI and things like that. Microsoft has been working on this for 5 to 6 years before they launched and before they perfected this model. In the past, what AI was doing was predicting based on the historical data. Now, if Rizwan does not have the historical data because of a new business idea, he can have a Gen AI and generate the data and still predict and prescribe the solution. So I think all we need to do is have to adopt what is happening around us, have to learn what is happening around us, and try to at least follow what's happening, not be a change resistance, right? Like, okay, I will not change this because whatever I do is right, and I'm not going to change my business model. Now you need to be constantly innovating. And as you said, everybody said that agility, disruption, innovation. So this is a continuous process. Change is not constant, right?
You see what I said, the best for last. This is why we had you sit on the end over there. So thank you for that. Go ahead. You wanted to make a point?
Yeah. You're putting us all under pressure because of him. But anyway. So, while we're, as leaders, we're talking about change, we're talking about disruption. But, I'd like to quote Jeff Bezos here that, you need to also keep focusing on what's not going to change. Yeah. And that is how you can delight the customer always, and how you can give better value to the customer. So this is also very important that you focus on things which are never going to change. That's a comment I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you for that. This ends our panel time. I want to do Q&A, but we don't have time. I see the boss looking over my shoulder here. So let me just close this out. Our topic was leadership and strategy, marrying those two, till death do us part. This is kind of where it's headed. And our focus was to redefine leadership in this new reality, craft strategies that are proactive, is what we've been talking about, foreseeing and navigating this wave of change, and just calm down, and react to it. So it was about confronting challenges and seizing opportunities to drive meaningful and sustainable impact. And I think we did pretty good. Can we get a big hand for our panel? Masterclass. Thank you.